Outwards, Washington got roundabouts. They put the
But these are three double ones right in a row.
three in a row.
Three in a row. Then you go into the
Like that Olympic,
Exactly.
So there's 5 for the Olympics.
Yeah, going to 3. Good.
But is this some kind of a new approach to the Department of Transportation?
For red lights.
But all of a sudden, I'm hearing more about roundabouts. Has something changed back in my own home state that I'm not aware of? How long has this been going on? This
Too long.
At any rate, we're going in circles. Our party's going in circles at the moment too. So let me kind of. I won't bring you up to date, but in fact, I'll go backwards in time instead of bringing you up to date, because I hope when we all look back at this moment of uncertainty and chaos and confusion and some hard feelings, that it will work out. And if it works out, don't ask me how it's going to work out, but if it works out, then I think we'll look back and feel that maybe we did something which helped to bring about change. And I'm not talking about the candidates, I'm talking about the process. This process where Iowa and New Hampshire have had this hammer lock on these early primaries and caucuses, and have had such a huge impact on who gets the nomination. We have felt, we being Debbie Dingell and I have felt for a long time, it's a cockamamie way to proceed. And it's been that way, except this year is not the proof of that. Because this year, every state counts. For the last 10 elections, the only states which counted were the early states. And then the thing's all over, and the rest of the 40 states that come after the early 10 just are irrelevant. And that's not the way it should be. And so we've decided we're going to do our bit to change that system. And the year we picked to do it turned out to be exactly the wrong year. Because what's happened is this year, of course, it's a very close race, and there is no one candidate that's emerging after the first 10 states. And that means you're in a real horse race, and this could go right down to the convention. And if it does that, then we're going to have our situation resolved at the Credentials Committee, which is not the place you want your delegates to be determined, or how you vote, or what the numbers are, and so forth. But anyway, still going back in time, what happened, the previous election, before this one, the Michigan Democratic Party, at the encouragement of Debbie Dingell and myself, decided that we were going to go the same day as New Hampshire. We were going to have the Michigan caucus or the Michigan primary, whichever one it would be, to go that same day and take on the rule, which has always been owned by New Hampshire, because New Hampshire gets people to sign pledges, candidates sign pledges every election, that they will preserve and protect the position of New Hampshire, and then they carry out their pledges. And the party rules reflect those candidates who have made that pledge, and the reason they pledge to protect New Hampshire is you can't campaign in New Hampshire unless you sign that pledge. You might as well not go there. And if you don't go there to campaign, you're not going to be able to get the lift which New Hampshire gives to people. And so, anyway, last election, when we the Michigan Dems told the National Democratic Party that we're going to have our primary the same day as New Hampshire. And then if we're penalized, and we're told our delegates won't be seated, we'll take our case to the Democratic Convention. We're very confident what would happen at a ordinary year's Democratic Convention. What will happen is they're going to seat Michigan, and they're going to seat any other state, which takes the risk of taking on New Hampshire, because the candidate is obviously going to want to win in Michigan. They're not going to want to throw away support in Michigan and antagonize Michigan in order to cater to New Hampshire. This year, of course, what's happened is that because it is so close, that you had this weird situation, which I don't have to tell anybody about, where in Michigan, 2 of the main candidates took their names off the ballot. We were disappointed at that, but we understand the pressure they were under. It's basically the New Hampshire pressure. And they made a decision, I think, that if they didn't do that, it would hurt them in New Hampshire. For whatever reason, Clinton made a different decision and left her name on the ballot. And then, of course, now we're in a situation where we've got roughly, percentage-wise, in the state, we should produce, in terms of the elected delegates, something like, what, 51% to 40% Clinton versus uncommitted. Those of you who are for Obama or Edwards are understandably pissed off because your candidate isn't on the ballot. And Florida's in a little different situation because in Florida, the candidates could not take their names off the ballot. So all the names are on the ballot. The Democratic candidates did not campaign in Florida the way they did not campaign here. The Republican candidates, on the other hand, both left their names on the ballot and campaigned in both states, although the Republican Party has taken the same position as the Democratic Party. They're punishing, in quotes, Michigan and Florida for ignoring the rule. The same thing is applying in both states. Both legislatures in both states adopted primaries in January, although the party rules, both Democratic and Republican, said you have to wait till February. Now you want to keep going back in time. You want to keep going back in history. What happened when Debbie Dingell and I went through this is the party said, hold on, this is the last election. We'll create a commission. And the commission will give a recommendation to the Democratic Party on how to deal with this problem of two states having the privilege perpetually and the front loading, which results in all the rest. So we said fine. So we held off last time. Michigan Democratic Party did not challenge the New Hampshire preference last time. Instead, this commission was appointed, met all around the country. I was on it, Debbie Dingell was on it, Iowa was represented, New Hampshire was represented. And the commission, after lots of hearings and lots of heated debate, because of obviously New Hampshire and Iowa determined they're going to keep their position, most of the other representatives saying we got to change the system gradually, that commission came out with a recommendation that there be a change in the sequence. That it be for the next election, Iowa, and then another state, then New Hampshire, then another state, and then the window would open, as they say, and any state could go. 4 states were supposed to be given in advance of the other states, and New Hampshire was said to be number 3, not number 2. New Hampshire went apoplectic. They found a way, which is taking me another 10 minutes to describe, to circumvent the rule. And what they did is announced that they were moving forward their primary in advance of what it was scheduled to be under the rule in order to go ahead of Nevada. Now that's what New Hampshire did. When the party announced that the sequence was going to be Iowa, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Carolina, what we in Michigan did, Michigan Democratic Party, did was to say we're disappointed because we're not one of the 4. But, and we're very explicit on this, if every other state abides by that sequence, we will too. But every other state did not abide by the sequence. New Hampshire jumped ahead and announced they were going to jump ahead. Now we at that point, and this is all in correspondence, we being the Michigan Dems and the Florida Dems, because they were in the same position, asked the National Democratic Party, what are you going to do about New Hampshire? Are you going to enforce the rule which puts New Hampshire 3rd? Will you enforce it against New Hampshire and against candidates who will campaign in New Hampshire? We never got an answer. There were 2 letters that were written by the Michigan and Republican Democratic delegations in Congress. We wrote 2 letters to Governor Dean, chairman of the party. Are you going to act to stop New Hampshire from going 2nd when they're supposed to now be 3rd? And when they refused to act and answer our letter, we then joined in Lansing in changing in adopting a law which sets a primary, which took on basically the national rule. That's the background. So, and it's complicated, and everybody's got a reason